Florida State has the best offense in the ACC, even better than Miami.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I'm going to be covering everything ACC with offenses today, and we're going to conclude with some stats that are probably going to surprise you. The passing stats, the overall efficiency, quarterbacks in this league have really done well. The ACC is definitely up this season at the quarterback position. We're going to be talking about the best offenses in the league overall. There's some surprises there too. Did you know Virginia has one of the best offenses in the country? It's not false. It's very true. Florida State, Miami, those aren't surprises. Where's Clemson at? They're not doing so well. But we have a lot of different things to dissect there. But we start with this, and I am steadfast with it. Florida State has the best offense in the ACC, even better than Miami's, because of the following. Tommy Castellanos is the guy behind center that makes the play that has nothing to do with stats. And it's not just Tommy's legs, it's his decision-making as well. So again, he is the reason that Florida State has the best offense in the ACC, Miami included, even with their great offensive line, because Tommy's legs, his mind, everything that he does is a fit for that offense, and he makes clutch plays, things that you cannot teach that have nothing to do with stats. So let's kind of break it down and why I think this way. Look at the game against Alabama. If you go back through it, Tommy made throws that were clutch. Obviously, the bomb to score was probably the most important play of the game. Momentum, setting up a score, all those things were great, but it changed how Alabama's defensive coaching staff had to look at it. The worst nightmare for any DC is that a truly elite athlete at quarterback, not just a mobile quarterback, but an elite athlete that can make you look dumb in space, is on fire that day. If he's throwing the ball well, there's really nothing you can do. There's nothing that beats the perfect pass, but when the perfect pass is also meshed with the perfect running ability, going and getting 4 yards when he needed it, knowing when to get down, when he could really scoot to the outside and make plays, he did it. Between the years, Tommy made the plays. Alabama's defense is one of the most talented in the country, and while FSU shredded it, you got to give Tommy a lot of credit for how they did it. It was methodical when needed. It was the ability to hit big plays when needed. He checked into plays that he needed to. He gave the football when he should have. He kept it when he should have. Decision-making by Tommy Castellanos was fantastic. Here's the other part with Tommy. He doesn't care if he's the one getting the credit, although I'm obviously heaping it on him right now. He's happy to hand it off. Doesn't matter if it's Cam Davis, Rodell Williams, doesn't matter if it's Jalen Lucas, doesn't matter who's in the lineup. He runs the offense. He does what's asked of him. He has matured, and he's made plays. Florida State's offense is the best in the ACC. Yes, Miami included. They have the best. And I think very, very highly of Miami's offense. I think it's the second or third, depending on how you want to look at it. We'll get into that in a little bit when we get to the second segment. But let's also break down Tommy as a passer. Here are some of his stats so far this year. And I knew he was good, but until I broke it down this morning before this podcast, I didn't know it was this good. Tommy Castellanos, looking at his numbers overall and kind of looking at Florida State, I'm looking at passing yards. They're averaging 260 a game. Combine that with the 295 that they run the football per game. And I'm just kind of going through here. Georgia Tech's pretty close. They had a game against Gardner-Webb that Haynes King didn't play. So I don't know how we really rank that. But Tommy Castellanos, when I look at his stats, matter of fact, I'm just going to pull these up so everybody can see them. He's just making the plays, man. He's just making the plays. All right, passing the football for Tommy. I'm going to share my screen for those of you that are on YouTube. And I'm also going to read them off for those of you that are listening. Castellanos so far this year has only played 2 games, but you would think it away the way he's hit the big plays. He's played 4 or 5. Total stats here, 17 of 25. He's got 68%, 389 yards, 15.6 yards per attempt. That's the most important stat for a quarterback other than not giving it away. And he has none of those. He's got 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Those are important when you look at the overall. Brian, he's only thrown 25 times because that's all he's had to do. His decision-making has been elite, and when he's let it fly, pass to Jalen down the sideline, the pass to Squirrel, the bomb to Deuce, the other bomb to Deuce, like everything that he's done in those scenarios has been there. And there have been a couple other plays he's been close on. So accuracy down the field obviously is there. He's not throwing the intermediate passes that are often picked in the middle of the field. Combining all that with his legs, I think that it's pretty clear they have the best offense overall. Now, situationally, I just want to ask you, regardless of what you think of Florida State, and I'm sure there'll be some idiot Miami fans that'll come on and complain because there's always some of those. The intelligent ones I'll reply to, the others I'll laugh at. But if you're a defensive coach, looking at these stats for Tommy, and he averages 4 or 5 yards per carry because he gets sacked, sack yards go against him. But if you look at him from a perspective of, well, would I rather go against him or Carson Beck if I was a defense? Both are very unenviable. Don't get me wrong. Carson Beck, I'll get to his stats in a minute. He's over 79% as a passer. He's elite. He is absolutely on fire so far this year. So congrats to Mr. Beck. But is he the runner that Tommy is? And on 3rd and 6, are you going to be somebody that's going to be happy to go after him? Looks like PFF is not being my friend right now. Are you going to be happy to come after him? Sure. You want to disrupt Carson Beck. But Tommy, not so much. If you rush and you get out of your rush lanes, and even if you stay in them, there's a chance that Tommy beats you. It may not be for 60 yards, but it is rare that he doesn't at least escape and throw the ball away, or escape and get back to the line, or escape and actually gain yardage when you thought you had a dead to rights sack. Those plays are gut-wrenching. And if you look at him in the stats, well, he lost on that play, Brian. They only gained 1 yard. They should have lost 10 yards. That is heartbreaking for a defense when you've got a guy. It changes momentum. That is another part of this too. He has so many little ways that he beats you that goes beyond the numbers. It's incredible. Now, can Florida State keep that up? I don't know. That's why we watch the games, and we'll see what he does this weekend against Kent State. But again, it's the legs. Absolutely. He's thrown the deep ball well, but all of it is because of what's between the years. Tommy Castellanos is leading the Florida State offense in a way that I didn't even see. And I watched him in high school. I knew he was UCF. I covered him there. I didn't think he was going to be this good. Tommy Castellanos is probably a guy at this pace, the way he's doing it. If they beat Miami, he has a chance to be in the Heisman race. Absolutely. All the little things together as a team leader and big playmaker. I love Florida State's offense, and I think it is definitively the best in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Yes, Miami included. When we come back, I want to break down some of these offenses and just talk about some of the stats and kind of go over all of them because, honestly, I was a little surprised. There's better quarterback play in the league this year. Going to compare Florida State and just have some fun with it. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right decisions can actually pay off in financial ways. You and I make decisions every day, but for PrizePicks, being right means actually cashing in. We've got college football, we've got pro football, we've got all kinds of stuff, and PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. Whether it's Florida State's Tommy Castellanos having a rushing touchdown, maybe it's him throwing 2 touchdowns, whatever it may be, all you got to do, 2 to 6 player projections, you can get it done. And if you want to go pro, Saquon Barkley, you want to go Aaron Rodgers or anybody else, that's available too. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On College for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst bringing you all the latest college football news with the Noles, recruiting, and everything else. We're going to have some fun with this segment too. We're going to talk offenses in the ACC. I was surprised. I knew it was a little better this year, but I didn't think it was this level. Does anybody know how well Chandler Morris is doing at Virginia, an opponent FSU has coming up, not this weekend, but next? Talk about him. We're going to talk about Carson Beck. We're going to talk about more about Tommy Castellanos. We're going to talk about several different players that are spinning it, and the offenses are really good. There is one team that is unique, and I'm not sure exactly how I want to categorize them overall, but they're very good, and that's Georgia Tech. We'll get some opinions on that. If you have any questions on what I mean, you'll probably know here in just a second, because the numbers for Georgia Tech are very balanced, and that's why they got a chance to be in the ACC title game. So again, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk a little bit about the overall ACC numbers. I think that it's pretty impressive, to put it mildly, but at the same time, if you have not seen Georgia Tech, by the way, you need to go see them. They are really, really good on offense, and they're kind of like Florida State. I think they're one of those teams that nobody really wants to face, especially on a 3rd down and 2, because they can beat you in so many ways. Here are the quarterbacks for the league in terms of passing yardage. And this is from CFB Stats for those of you that are wondering where I'm using this. For some reason, if you go through this, they don't have a Georgia Tech quarterback, but at the same time, they've used 2 of them. Just to be clear, Haynes King did not play against Carson Newman, so it's a little goofy there, but just for yardage and all that kind of stuff, I can use this in a lot of different ways. Carson Beck is leading the league in percentage, 79.3. Dylan Lonergan for BC, 73.2. That's impressive. A quarterback that is really coming on in a team I'm going to talk about a little bit, CJ Bailey at NC State, 70.8. He's really playing well as a true sophomore. Chandler Morris at Virginia, 69.7. If you go down and just kind of go through the list, you're like, well, where are all these stats at? Well, they don't have everybody in there the same way you would think. Well, where's Tommy at? How does this work? They don't do it for everybody. I'm confused what CFB Stats was doing. They don't have Haynes. They don't have Tommy, but they both played in 2 games so far. But at the same time, Miller Moss has only played 2 games, and he's on here. So there's some kind of glitch. But nonetheless, again, just for the record, he's hitting 68%. He's got a 3 touchdown, no interceptions, and he's hit over 15 yards per attempt. Like, he's elite. His numbers just aren't on here for some reason with CFB Stats, but I digress. Anyway, this is a really good barometer, though. Look at the league, and it's the teams you would think that aren't good, like Kyron Drones and Ben Gobernson. The kid is like the Stanford quarterback is terrible. Gio Lopez at North Carolina has been a bit of a disappointment, 58.5%. That's kind of sad. I'm not sure why it's so low, but it is what it is. Now let's look at the overall offenses. This is where it's really fun. If you look at all the different numbers for the ACC across the board, there is nothing quite like the total offense and the scoring offense. They might surprise you a bit. Florida State's number 1 in scoring offense, and that doesn't shock me by any means, but Virginia is number 2, 44.7 for the Cavaliers. Did you see that coming? Because I did not. Give credit to Chandler Morris and that entire staff over Virginia. Good for them. Pittsburgh, 43.3. Miami, they're 5th, but I'll come back to them in a second. 40.3, but they grind teams into the dirt, and that's a very big key. Georgia Tech is 9th, 36.7, but again, they grind teams into the dirt, and they just play Clemson, a very good defense. Looking at the overall scoring, though, the one that is shocking is Clemson. 19.3? You got a senior quarterback that began starting football games during his freshman season. You got all these big-time offensive linemen that are junior, seniors, and fifth-year seniors. I know they've got a couple of injuries, but they shouldn't be at 19.3. They are by far the biggest disappointment in the league by a million miles. I don't think it's competitive. And I'm not really sure what to point the finger at. They've spent the money on coaches. They've spent the money in terms of keeping everybody happy to stay with NIL to a certain degree, at least. They're not losing guys. What's going on with Clemson? Miami, let's talk about them for a second. While their number is not as high, if you want to make an argument that Miami is the best offense in the league, it's based on the following premise, in my opinion. when they want to grind the football against you and get 3 to 5 yards, all they do is run inside runs, mostly with duo, meaning 2 blockers on each of your D tackles, and then they move up to the second level. It's very generic, but it's very efficient. It's one of the most old school plays in football at any level, and they're great at it, and they control the tempo. That's a certain way that most teams try to do, but Miami does it as well, if not better than anybody. Pittsburgh does a little bit of that same kind of deal. Eli Holstein, 9 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions this year. He's been a little up and down, but he's starting to figure it out. That's a game for a lot of teams. If they screw around, like I think Miami's last game's at Pitt, Pittsburgh could be a team that could cause some problems. We'll see what happens with them. They just lost to West Virginia, though. Like, that's unbelievable. They failed in key moments. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, looking at the league, it's pretty interesting how many different guys are throwing the ball well. And that's why I also want to bring up one more stat. Just passing offense in the league. Nothing else, just passing yardage. Boston College, by the way, they've lost their last 2 games. They're averaging 393 yards a game. That's insane. Miami's 5th, Florida State's 10th. So you can see, like, the winners, it's not passing the football, it's this following stat. The key, without a doubt, is rushing offense. Look at the teams that you think are the best in the ACC. Now look at the far right column here. 295.5 yards for the Noles. Virginia, 266. Georgia Tech, 230. Miami, 179. And now for my rankings, just overall, I've obviously declared Florida State number 1. Georgia Tech 2, Miami 3. You can flip those either way. But I give Georgia Tech the slight edge over Miami because Haynes King, as long as he stays healthy, is the third down buster. You know it's coming, and he still gets the first down. If you want to put Miami number 2, I get it. But Haynes King is just incredible, and their offensive line is also very good. I think Miami's just got the best in the league. I don't disagree with that, if anybody wants to state it. But Haynes King is just clutch. We'll see if he finds a way to get himself healthy at the end of the year so they could make it to the ACC title game. The way he runs, I have doubts, but we'll see. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the offenses in the league, but overall, I want to look at it from another perspective. We've talked about quarterback stats. Who's the next guy, especially with the teams that Florida State plays, that they need to worry about? And who could possibly knock off the Noles if they take a team lightly? That is next on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime, and with college football being back and the Noles being back, I couldn't be more excited about it. The tailgates, rivalries, and all the energy, there's nothing quite like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets to go see Florida State and other teams, it's not always the easiest thing, and it's a battle because of all the different prices and hidden fees. That's why you should use Gametime. It's the app that I use, and it's very easy to get in, find what you need without all those hidden fees, so you can get to the Noles and not have to worry about spending extra cash. For one, the Pittsburgh game coming up in a few weeks, that's one you should take a look at. This weekend's game, there's still plenty of seats too, and you can get them on either side. You can get them in the end zone, wherever you want. Just check out the Gametime app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for the Florida State Seminoles and everybody else by using Gametime. Just create the account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Again, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. There are some quarterbacks that Florida State will face this year that may surprise you. It's part of college football, I guess. That's the easiest way to put it. But you have these different teams that you're like, yeah, they'll be a contender to make a bowl. But then their quarterback figures it out, and you're like, okay, this team might be somebody to worry about. Well, here's an example of that. Virginia's coming up, not this weekend, but next. Chandler Morris is a graduate student. His family's a football family. He's played at different places. Now he's at Virginia. The last stop before his career is over. And I didn't think he was going to do much. I was wrong. Chandler Morris so far this year, 62 of 89, 69.7%, 670 yards, 7.5 per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, he's a little bit of a check down Charlie based on those numbers, but 4-1, and he's got Virginia's talent. They lost Malachi Fields to Notre Dame, their best receiver. For what they have, he's pretty good. I'm going to talk about this all next week before the Noles play. No doubt about it. Before the Noles play, absolutely. Against Virginia, the number one key, they got to find a way to mitigate Chandler Morris hitting all these small gains, but they keep him in contention, like 3, 4, 5-yard passes. He'll hit those. He'll check down. He'll throw it away. You got to force him into some more, not just negative plays, but game-changing plays. It's not making many errors. I know they don't have a ton of elite players, but they got a few guys that are pretty good. And if you leave them on the field, they can grind you with the short passing game. We'll see what he ends up doing later on this season. CJ Bailey, this is a guy that is a sophomore. Florida State will play them later in the season. It's the week before the Noles go to Gainesville. Sophomore quarterback, played with Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader. He's now at Miami, etc. Down at Chaminade Madonna in South Florida. Big-time recruit, goes to NC State. Got thrown into the fire last year when their quarterback got hurt, and he wasn't very good early on, but he got better. The game the other day that I saw him play against Wake Forest, like he makes money throws. And CJ's always had not just a good arm, he's got a cannon. So he can fit it into small windows. He's starting to hit passes over the middle, comebacks. He's hitting some deep overs. He's hitting some routes in the middle of the field that are a little risky, but again, with his arm, he can do it. Just a crossing route between the linebacker and like in front of the DB, like small window, he's hitting those. And here are his numbers. 63 of 89, 70.8%, 719 yards, 8.1 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Combined with Hollywood Smothers, the running back at NC State, I think they're probably the 5th best offense in the league, and they couldn't end up in the top 3. If they hit a few more big plays down the field, the receivers got to do a little more for me to buy into that. But if they hit a few more big plays, it's possible they end up being one of the top 3 offenses in this league because they're more balanced than most. Offensive line's a little green. They got some issues, but Hollywood Smothers is just a dude at running back. He should probably lose yardage on about 1 out of 3 plays. Their line is iffy, but he just finds a way. And if they stay ahead of the sticks with CJ, that's going to be a really difficult team to knock out. And then finally, Haynes King. This is the one that it's the hardest to define. And again, I've got Georgia Tech as the 2nd best offense in the league right now, as long as King is healthy. If he's not healthy long-term, then we'll see. But they're averaging 36.7 points per game. That's 9th in the ACC right now. They're 3rd overall in yards. They're 8th in passing. They're 3rd in rushing. But it's the little things they do on 3rd down and 4th down in short yardage with Haynes King that just makes it different. There's no real category for that. When we need him to run, and everybody in the stadium knows it's coming, Haynes King is annoying. There is no defensive scheme because it's a math deal. They take a running back and use him as a blocker. You've got 10 guys blocking for a really talented athlete in Haynes King. And then as a passer, he's only played 2 games. He did not play against Carson Newman. 33 of 48, 68.8%, 354 yards, 7.4, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He doesn't throw a ton, but he doesn't have to. They've got a really good running back, guy that'll probably play in the NFL, and they have enough talent at receiver that they can be annoying. If you let Georgia Tech's traditional run game be solid, then you add in Haynes King, that is one of the most difficult offenses to stop in college football, especially if they get on track early. Ask Clemson. They punched Clemson in the mouth. And Clemson, they rebounded to a certain degree, but they kind of sweltered. In the second half, even with their NFL talent up front, didn't matter. Georgia Tech beat up on them. Georgia Tech won that game in the trenches with Haynes King being the defining force in the 4th quarter. That's a really good offense. And I respect how they do it because they're not doing it with as much talent as what Miami or Florida State have. They're not. They've got similar to a certain degree. They don't have the depth. They don't have as many playmakers. The top-end guys, sure. Their depth is not the same. And they're still really, really good. Why? Coaching, cohesion, and they believe. That is a team that can absolutely make it to the ACC title game and possibly even win the ACC. With that formula. Again, you know it's coming. But can you stop it? The only thing Georgia Tech really has to worry about, and this is what I question all the time, Do they have the ability on defense towards the end of the year when everybody's beat up to not only get into the ACC title game, but have enough healthy bodies in their front seven that are good enough players to beat a Miami or a Florida State? It'll be one of those two in the ACC title game. Clemson, I guess you could still possibly, but I highly doubt it. Georgia Tech, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. Those are 4 teams we all thought would be pretty good this year in terms of scoring some points based on their coordinators. But all the different things going together, nobody thought Florida State was going to be this good. They're definitively up there. And then Clemson, nobody thought they were going to be this definitively bad on offense. Again, they're averaging less than 20 points a game. It's wild how things have changed. I knew Florida State was going to score, but I didn't think Clemson was going to fall off like this. And I didn't think Florida State's offense would be this good. Just got to watch the games, man. Sometimes there are surprises, and that's why college football is the greatest game on planet Earth. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst. Thank you for checking us out again. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on Locked On Seminoles.